How's everyone doing? Awesome. I'm going to dovetail a lot of the points that Dr. Driver made. I think there's a lot of same points that really are beneficial, and a lot of them might be a little random. I kind of have three different headings, so pardon me if they kind of jump all over the place, but it's how my head kind of works. One of the things that answered the question that they had for the panel earlier was, is this the profession that you wanted to be in? Oddly enough, while I am in the profession that I wanted to be in, the way that I got here, yeah, I'm in the sector I am, but the profession, it kind of was a little different. So what's interesting is that when I first started working with my dad as a young kid, and then went to the trades, then ultimately went to college. Didn't know I ultimately would be owning a construction company with my two brothers, but this is kind of an interesting, fun journey for how to get here. So you never really know exactly where you ultimately end up, but it's always a fun journey. Hitting on brand and culture, I guess they kind of go hand in hand as an owner of a company, but it's something to keep in mind as you kind of progress through the corporate ladder, or as your progression in your careers. Looking just from a culture point of view, obviously the way that we act as owners kind of dictates how others see us, or how our employees would like to, whether they want to come to work every day or not. It's like, oh crap, it's Monday. Do we want to come in or not? Or is it, oh, it's Monday, it's going to be kind of a cool hangout, kind of talk about what happened over the weekend. So it's something that we naturally do in our office, so I think that that really helps Mondays, from what I've seen working at other companies as opposed to ours, where it's kind of a nice atmosphere overall, which kind of helps overall for, say, productivity, as well as just people wanting to come there versus having to come there. As far as leadership training, I think that's something that can't be understated, because certain things happen naturally, I think, as far as growing in your progression. But at the same time, there's other things that others will be able to show you that you don't necessarily see, or can kind of see where your strengths and weaknesses is, so you can adjust accordingly both ways. Part of that is personally I have like a kitchen cabinet, we call it. It's like an advisory board where people I can kind of bounce ideas off of. In addition to our employees, which we kind of, we do definitely value what they have to say, because once again, it's coming from a different perspective on how we could necessarily approach something. So I would say leadership training and mentoring is very key to progression, just being able to see where your strengths as well as your weaknesses are, because once you know that, you're able to capitalize on those as best as possible. It was a breakthrough when I found out that the initiative, that it was a, back it up. Once I found out that there's, you can be awarded for taking the initiative and for having an entrepreneurial spirit while working for someone, it was a breakthrough. In hindsight, it makes sense, because as an owner, looking at it from that perspective, or as a manager, you kind of want people who actually are able to make those decisions, so you don't necessarily have to. Once you have that comfort level and they show that they have that initiative and have the mindset in order to progress an organization, whether it's on a specific project or overall strategically, those are the kind of people you want to have around. Those are the people you can start grooming to have those management positions that they don't necessarily have them at that point in time. And selfishly, it helps you as well for projects that you have in your resume, and for lessons learned moving on to whether in the same organization or other organizations. One other thing that I thought was, after a while of getting tired of trying to put out a round peg in a square hole, oh yeah, that one. Essentially, it doesn't take very long, maybe 6 months tops, before you see whether or not you're in a good fit in the organization. If you see it's not a good fit, honestly, it's time to move around. The reason I say that is because you stick around, you're probably wasting both people's time, as opposed to finding an organization that you actually feel that would be a good fit. I think that a lot of time gets put into trying to fit into an organization's culture, but I think culture is one of those things that are key, but you kind of know pretty quickly whether or not it's a good fit or not. I think people put a lot of time and effort into trying to mold into another person's culture. I don't have any stats to back this up, but I would think that it's probably less than 25% as far as actually being able to adapt to a specific culture. It's something that comes naturally, either you have it or you don't. That's just my personal. So this is all non-scientific, it's just going off the gut. What else we got here? Work-life balance, let's talk about that one. We at JCP have like a work hard, play hard balance, meaning that we might put 10s or 12s in, but at the same time, if the work is done, you can go home. So it's one of those deals where I think it's on a project-specific basis with us, where we'll put in real long days and hours, but when that work slows up, it's the same way, where you might put in 5 hours or go golfing or something like that. More importantly, too, if there's something that comes up with the family, just happened today, one of our interns is having some his father's having medical issues. He came in the office, he's an intern, doesn't want to do the bad thing and call in, but he comes in, and after a while, you can hear in his voice that he's just a little down. Like, hey, what's going on? His dad's in the hospital, and they want to have some consulting, I guess. I'm saying all to say that's like, get out of here. You need to be with your family right now. So it's one of those deals where, I guess coming from a family organization where it's something that we kind of hold dear, where it's kind of like, well, just priorities. And as one of the members on the panel put it, obviously sometimes work is, sometimes family is, sometimes school is. It all depends on where that's at. And it's about having the wherewithal, I think, in order to kind of figure out what the priority is at that given point in time. And there are certain times where you might have a big hot project, you might be times at the same time have family issues. That's when I think it gets real tough. Otherwise, I think it kind of works itself out overall. Once again, it kind of depends on the culture that's going on with the organization. That kind of drives a lot of that. I guess culture is kind of coming up quite a bit in this one. But I think it's a key thing. Do's and don'ts. What do we got here? Run before walking. By that I mean, a lot of people want to jump in right away and do a lot of stuff without necessarily knowing what the basics of how a process works in an organization. I think it's great to want to help out and whatnot, but figuring out how a process works, understanding it, what goes into it, how you can make it go better, and then run. I think for me as an owner or just as a manager, nothing's worse than someone kind of taking the initiative on something and dropping the ball on it, whether you hold their hand or not, or saying they can do something and you're relying on them and you're going a different direction and you come back to kind of put it all together and it's not there. It's just not a good look. Ask questions. As cheesy as it sounds, I think there is no such thing as a bad question. Because otherwise, how is someone going to answer? And I kind of notice sometimes people in our organization getting bothered by the interns asking questions. And it's like, look, how else you expect them to, they have to learn somehow or another. So I guess that goes two ways, whether it's you asking questions to higher management or to whomever else you may not know the answer to, but I think the other way around, not getting irritated by other people who are asking questions as well to try to understand a specific issue, problem, or how something works. I think I kind of hit on this earlier, good management teams are always looking for the next leader to make their job easier, selfishly, and to help grow the company. Just little tidbits here now. No one wants to hear excuses, only ways that address a certain challenge. It's another thing I think is that when something goes wrong, and it's one of these numbers right here, that's not cool. Everyone wants to understand what the problem is. If it is a problem that you created, take ownership of it, and not a million reasons why it's not your problem. Trying to figure out my handwriting on this one, it doesn't work. I'll keep moving. I said keep a kitchen cabinet or mentors. I guess reiterating that again. It's just key for job progression or just career progression. And find the right balance between delegating and executing. Delegating is key to being able to do multiple projects or tasks, but at the same time, if you delegate everything, then it's kind of like, what's your value then? Because anybody can kind of just push it on somebody else. So it's finding that right balance, I think, between executing on certain tasks and delegating. Careers that you want to do, even if, career. Ultimately, overall, I think that what you want to do career-wise is say you won multi-million-dollar lottery or you have a nice trust fund sitting around. What do you want to do if money was not an object? That's the kind of job you want. That's the kind of career you want, because that's the kind that you want to come to every day regardless of what's going on. And I think I've been fortunate enough to kind of find that, in the construction industry. And I think ultimately that will help fulfillment overall, just being in a profession or in a career, job, role, whatever term you want to use, that is something that you do even if money was not an object in it. So don't have that be your guiding factor. That's all I have. Thank you.